welcome to Venerable Tarpa, Venerable Pema. So glad you could join today. And it's very nice to see everybody else. Maybe I'll just start off taking a survey. Who here knows the word vasa? The word vasa. Okay, got some. How about the word varsha? The word varsha. Okay, we got one or two or three, 4 or 5. Okay. How about the word rains retreat? We got some. Okay. How about the word Lent with a capital L, not the fuzzy stuff? Okay. So most people know Lent. So yesterday was the beginning of what some people do call Buddhist Lent, which is this rains retreat, which in Pali is vasa and in Sanskrit is varsha. So vasa or varsha literally just means the rains, and it's pointing to the monsoon season in India. So at the time of the Buddha, actually before the time of the Buddha, there was this practice of religious seekers of various different faiths and different practices settling down in one place for the rainy season, for the monsoon season. Because if people are out walking around, they might destroy other people's crops. So it was seen as inappropriate for wanderers to, even though that there's a lot of walking that we do, a lot of pilgrimage that monastics in different tradition do, you have to settle down even from before the time of the Buddha for these 3 months of the monsoon season. And the Buddha took that practice on and kind of instituted it for all of his monastics, is that for 3 months of the year, during this period from the full moon in July, roughly, to the full moon in October, monastics have to settle down and not travel. And there's a principle in Christian monasticism of stability, where you basically determine to not go anywhere. You stay at the same monastery. In Christianity, that's like for your whole life as a monastic, whereas in Buddhism, it's really just held as for specifically these 3 months of the rains retreats. We don't go anywhere. We practice being with each other, not just running away. So this has been practiced since the time of the Buddha, and we continue to practice that today. And at our monasteries in the Ajahn tradition, in the West particularly, we practice 2 different retreat periods from the year. We observe the traditional 3 months monsoon season in India, which turns out to be our completely non-rainy season here in the West, basically summertime, and we don't travel as much. If we have to travel, we're very intentional about it, and we can't be gone from our established dwelling for more than 7 days. So we have these 3 months, which are the rains retreat, and we also have our 3-month winter retreat, where we focus a lot more on meditation. As I mentioned earlier, we will be doing at least a month or maybe a month and a half of more formal meditation during this rainy season, especially on Zoom, so everybody is invited, and we'll put up the times next week for that, and everybody can join in. But here it's just in solidarity with monastics across the world who are also observing the rains retreat. So in looking up the Vasa on Wikipedia, I learned that, some people do call it the Buddhist Lent. And I wasn't raised Catholic, so that's just a cool thing for me. The name Lent, okay, cool. What can I learn about other religious practices where they kind of up their religious game, kind of taking on practices which they don't usually have, and it's very interesting. I learned a bit there, and but just to acknowledge that I think many people who come to Buddhism in the West come because they're actually haven't made intentional moves away from their religion of birth, if that's Christianity or otherwise. So apologies if there's any kind of religious language here that you don't appreciate, and just know that, the Buddhist connotations behind these words are not exactly the same. I like to think of people who maybe have this aversion towards Lent. They're not Lent rollers, but they're Lent rollees. So that was a joke. I asked AI, and there isn't, the Buddha didn't make any rules about monastic use of AI, but probably should have. We're going to have to figure this out sometime soon, but I asked AI for some Buddhist Lent jokes, and it gave me one, which I thought was, okay, that's pretty creative, and it gave me one which just, that's a little bit weird. So the first one was, someone says, yeah, for the next 40 days and 40 nights, I aspire to give up spreadsheets. It's going to be Excel Lent. It's going to be Excel Lent. So, okay, that's pretty good, pretty good. And then the second one, which is just a little bit strange, just makes you question, okay, yeah, they do not have general human intelligence yet. The second one was, what is a Buddhist monk's favorite dessert during the Vasa or Varsha? And the answer is stillness pudding. Like, is that a joke? Is that a joke, AI? Yeah. Although I did kind of like it. I did think it was a bit hilarious, but so there is this practice of saddha, or confidence or faith in Buddhism, but it means something different than faith in Abrahamic religions. And for myself, what I find to be the most stable foundation for a Buddhist belief is found in a very short discourse that the Buddha gave, where he says that it is possible to abandon unwholesome mental states. It is possible to abandon unwholesome mental states. If it weren't possible, I, meaning the Buddha, wouldn't say to do it, but because it is possible, I say to do it. So that's one part of basic foundational Buddhist faith. And the second part, very related, same sutta, same discourse, is it is possible to cultivate wholesome mental states. If it weren't possible, the Buddha wouldn't say to do it, but because it is, he does say to do it. So this is foundational Buddhist faith. It is possible to give up bad habits, and it is possible to cultivate wholesome, good mental habits. And this is not a given. You could have some kind of intellectual system which posited some kind of fate or some kind of determinism that said it is not possible to give up bad habits. We're just stuck with whatever habits we have. It's all an accident. Whereas in Buddhism, we acknowledge that it is possible to cultivate good habits and to give up bad habits. So that's just a great belief to have. And ultimately, you can't actually prove that one way or another. That's why you have to acknowledge that on some level, it's a faith. You're taking on this belief that it's possible, and more we corroborate, we add evidence to this working hypothesis of Buddhism. Okay, I have cultivated good habits in the past, and I have given up bad habits. At one point, I used to smoke, Virginia Slims, bad habit, but then I gave it up. Other bad habits, whatever we're able to give them up. It is possible. And really tuning into that, because it's also the foundation of a negative or the depressive mind, is to say that it's not possible to cultivate mental states. It's not possible to give up unwholesome mental states. That's at the root of depression. It's when you don't have this foundational faith that it is possible. So talking about habits, because the traditional practice during these 3 months of the range retreat, especially in theravada countries, but I think also in other Buddhist countries, is to specifically take on new habits or to set up some kind of intention. So at the beginning of this year, we had our yearly New Year's Eve vigil, and then we gave a talk on atomic habits, Buddhist style. So a very good modern book by James Clear called Atomic Habits, and talked about how we can use this framework of making the good habits that we want to take on as obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying as possible. And today, would like to continue this practice of talking about Buddhist habits somewhat in the context of another great modern book on habits called The Power of Habit. So this book came out before Atomic Habits, and it really is, there are a lot of principles which just dovetail completely or just totally analogous with Buddhist principles of wholesome habit creation. And the fundamental framework there is one of cue, routine, and response. So any habit is made up of a cue, a routine, something we do, and a response to that routine. So any bad habit that we have, if we're just used to walking into the kitchen and we see the potato chips there, and then next thing we know, we experience the very slight happiness of having eaten 3 bags of potato chips, and the very next moment we experience the suffering entailed in those 3 bags of potato chips working their way through our digestive systems. So that's cue, routine, and response. And we can use this structure to actually create positive habits. So another framework that I learned about from Christianity is one of the 3 pillars of Lent, the 3 pillars of Lent. Those are the pillar of almsgiving, the pillar of fasting, and the pillar of prayer. So these are framed in terms of the pillar of almsgiving is justice towards one's neighbors. The pillar of fasting is justice towards oneself. And the pillar of prayer is justice towards God. And these 3 also very much overlap with the Buddhist framework of 3 types of boon, or 3 types of merit, 3 types of goodness. The Buddha asked, what is punya? What is merit? Do not look down on merit, on punya, because it's just another name for happiness. Punya is just another name for happiness. And the Buddha talked about 3 ways of making merit, 3 ways of making punya. That is the merit made through generosity, or dana, which is like this pillar of almsgiving. The way of making merit of punya through keeping precepts, or sila, which is like fasting from various different things. And the way of making merit through bhavana, or meditation, mental development, literally cultivation, bringing into being wholesome mental states, which is somewhat akin to the Christian practice, at least in its best form of prayer, the pillar of prayer. So how can we create good habits? And I would really encourage you, as the rest of this morning goes along, and even as I talk, to think about, we've got 89 more days of Buddhist Lent, 89 more days of the Vasa, of the Varsha, of the Rains Retreat. And it's just always fun to up your game. It's just always fun to figure out where we're kind of loose in our practice and where we might be able to tighten up the strings if it seems like our instruments are a bit out of tune, if it seems like we're not completely resonating in harmony with the people around us or our own highest intentions, tuning our effort. So if there are ways that we're slack in our practices of generosity, of precepts, of meditation, of mental cultivation, how can you turn those up for the next 89 days, the next 3 months, the next 12 weeks? How can you intentionally bring some intentionality to these different areas of your life, if you indeed do see that these are useful things to be paying attention to? And really, when you frame it in those Christian terms of almsgiving, fasting, and prayer, they seem very religious, and they are in a Christian context. But the practice of generosity, of ethics, morality, general integrity, and of mental cultivation, really those don't have to be religious at all. These are good things for anybody to develop. You notice the beauty in yourself and the beauty in others grow when you see that, oh, that guy, that girl, that person is really good at being generous. That person, I can trust them because they can trust themselves. They have a real solid sense of integrity. That person can sit quietly in a room alone for periods of time, more than 6 minutes. And that's impressive. That's impressive. And I want to be more like that. And if you do as well, how can you bring these into your practice? So if this first pillar, the dana practices, your practices of generosity, how can you up your generosity game? How can you up your ways of being generous? And there are many traditional ways that people will do this in Buddhist countries. So people might say, actually, I just learned about one in a Korean context. One of our Korean Buddhist Zen teachers, Ponyim Sunim, he actually encourages his students to take on a practice of giving, I think it's $1 a day to whoever. Just be generous, $1 a day. So over 90 days, that's $90. And that's, on one level, it's completely arbitrary. There weren't dollars at the time of the Buddha. Inflation, I'm not an economist. I don't want to try to figure that out. But yeah, so it's not religiously mandated, but what can you give? If you see that it's beautiful to give, how can you institute this in your life? And can you wake up and do something generous? So $1 a day dana practice, $1 a day dana challenge. Can you do that? And once a Brahmin, so a non-Buddhist seeker, comes to the Buddha and they ask, Buddha, who should I give generosity to? Who should I be generous to? And you might think that the Buddha said, oh yeah, give it to me, give it to all my people, give it to the Sangha. But the Buddha doesn't, because he was a genius. He was a genius in many ways. But he says, give where you feel inspired. Mic drop moment. Totally awesome answer. Give where you feel inspired. What a great answer. And that's really where you should give. And the Buddha then continued, was asked, where, when I give, will it give great fruit and great benefit? And the Buddha continues by saying, that's a different question. You should give wherever you feel inspired, but giving to, say, people or causes which, when you give to them, increase your own wholesome mental qualities. Giving to people who themselves are generous, organizations which then give to other beings, other people. Giving to people who themselves are have an ethical sense, who can meditate, organizations like that. So basically giving where you feel inspired and to inspiring organizations and people. And once, another story from the Buddha time, there was once a very sick monk on his deathbed who basically had some form of dysentery, basically covered in their own excrement. And at this time in this monastery, there was no one looking after this monk. So the Buddha learns about this, and he himself, he says, Ananda, let's go to this monk's hut. And he and Ananda, his personal attendant, go to this monk's hut and themselves start washing and cleaning off and looking after this sick monastic. And the teaching that the Buddha gave at this occasion in Pali is, Yo mama upatako so gilanang upatahetu. Yo gilanang upatati so mang upatati, which means whoever would look after me should look after the sick, and whoever looks after the sick is looking after me. So you can think of this as a way of connecting with the Buddha. So generosity as a way of instantiating. If you have a bowing practice, which is also a great practice to do during the Rains Retreat, we've already talked about our 28 bow a day practice challenge, 28 bow challenge, where you can start it now. If you bow 28 bows, especially that Tibetan style, it's super cool. You all don't wear robes, so you can do it much easier than us. Full Tibetan style. It's a great exercise. 28 bows a day, which is approximately 1/4 of a mala, of one of these meditation beads. So this is 108, and 1/4 of that up to the first spacer bead is 28 beads, and you just bow 28 times a day. You do that for a full year, and that's 10,000 bows. And that's kind of cool. But you could do it for the Rains Retreat as well, bowing a certain number of times. And I think if you bow 12 times a day for 90 days, that's a bit over 1,000 bows. And somebody can check my math on that, but don't think about it too much. Mostly talking to myself right now. How can you up your generosity game? How can you up your generosity game? How can you instantiate your respect for the Buddha, for this principle of awakening? So how can you give in your life during the next 90 days, 90-day generosity challenge? Giving away, giving up. It can be to your family. We have monastics, we have monks and nuns who are totally dependent for their food on people giving. So We've got, Ajahn Nisabo and I are going alms round pretty much every day during the weekdays. You look on our alms calendar, we've got the Pasati Vihara Bhikkhunis in Olympia, the Parayana Vihara Bhikkhunis in Port Townsend, and just go and once a week, can you go and offer a meal to monastics? If you find monastics or the practice of meditation inspiring, once a week, can you find a way to give? And it is good, the Buddha said, to give with your own hand. Giving with your own hand is really beautiful. And you can do this if you're giving a gift. It's so easy these days to order things on Amazon. Unfortunately, didn't get this talk in last week because yesterday was Prime Day. You missed it, everybody. You missed Prime Day. But still, you can still order things on Amazon, and rather than having the gifts shipped to the person who you're wanting to give to, especially if you're a compulsive buyer and you just buy a bunch of things for yourself, it's so easy. Just slip someone else's name into the address line rather than yourself. And then that itself is generosity. And then, even one step further, knowing that you want to give to somebody, put your own address into the address line, receive the gift, open it up, package it, and then give it to someone else. Up your generosity game. Give with your own hand. How can you do this? How can you instantiate your respect for the Buddha, for generosity? How can you have a bigger heart and realize the beauty of giving? 90 days. I will pause for 12 seconds just to allow you all to think about that. If you're still thinking, please just try to ignore the talk. So for me, in that little bit of time, for the next 12 weeks, the next 3 months, it might not seem like a big thing, but the Buddha said, if beings knew the power of generosity, they wouldn't eat. They wouldn't eat without first having given. So for me, I'm going to say it out loud because that's a good forcing function. Saying something out loud is kind of, you got a bunch of accountability buddies. Like, any of you could now ask me in the next 3 months, did you do this thing that you're about to say, Kovilo? And I would have to say either yes or no, depending. But in this principle of giving something away before you eat, this is called in Pali the saraniya practice, which means a practice which leads to being endearing, or a practice which leads to a practice which is worth remembering, which leads to harmony. So for the next 3 months, every day I'm going to try to give some piece of food away before I eat it. And if you've got a family, if you've got a spouse, that could be feeding your spouse just one bite. It could be more. A whole meal is better than just a bite. But giving to your spouse, or giving to your children, or giving to your pet before you eat. And yeah, it's just a good way, shifting from the me focus, from my own mouth focus, to the mouths of others. So I'll try to do that, and maybe all of you can find some way to do that. Or even composting, because there are beings in the compost. I can give away one slice of banana before I eat the whole banana myself. Just put it in the compost, because with the thought, the Buddha continued in that vein, if beings knew as I knew the power of generosity and sharing, they wouldn't eat without having given. Even giving away the food left over in their bowl, the remaining rice kernels, even throwing that in a pond, thinking, may the beings here live and flourish. That too is of great fruit and great benefit. So composting has value. And there are these other practices, the other pillars of Lent, of Buddhist Lent, that is the boon, the merit which can come from having a moral sense, from being very clear about your sense of integrity. You can print out the 5 precepts if you want to take those and recite them to yourself. Memorize the 5 precepts. Memorize some chant from this chanting book. You'll be surprised that in a religious book like this, you'll look through it and you might be very surprised that everything in here is very cool and not too uncontroversial and very reasonable and really awesome. Check it out. Don't take my word for it. Check it out, and then see if you can memorize something from that book if you see that it's useful. memorize it. See if you can chant the 5 precepts every day. Or once a week, take the 8 precepts. Can you not lie on a bed? That's the 8th precept. Can you not eat afternoon? These are challenges. Most people think it's not possible. But monastics, lots of people, non-monastics, prove that it is possible to go without food. We've been doing it for 15 years, not eating afternoon. It's totally possible. And then you learn that there are workarounds, like we can drink juice and we can eat dark chocolate and gummy bears. But at any rate, find what you can give up. Find what you can give up. How can you up your morality game? How can you up your integrity game? This is the Dhamma. The whole Dhamma is one of training. It's called a theravada, a teaching on of effort. There is a place for effort in practice. And then the final pillar, the pillar of prayer. How do we bring bhavana, this way of increasing merit through cultivation of the mind? Can you meditate more for this upcoming period of 4 or 5 weeks when we have, so actually every day during the Vasa, we have 3 hours of meditation that we already do, starting already. Go onto our website, check it out. It's totally free, just on Zoom. Join in. You don't have to say a word. In fact, you're force muted, so you can't say a word. But join in there, and you've got a bunch of people just sitting there quietly with you. And it's just, if you happen to open your eyes, you got a bunch of sweet people sitting there just with their eyes closed and a great group support. So increase your meditation game. Can you meditate for 5 more minutes than you're used to? Can you push yourself beyond your limits? And almost certainly you can. So looking for ways to do that. And for the next 90 days, if you meditate for 112 minutes every day, then that's 1,000, something like 1,080 minutes of meditation. Could be 10,000. It's hard to do math and give a Dhamma talk at the same time. 10,000. All right, Ajahn says. So yeah, if you meditate for 112 minutes, that's 2 periods of 56 minutes a day, 56 minutes, less than an hour in the morning, less than an hour in the evening, or 2 periods of 45 minutes and 1 period of 22 minutes, then that's some multiple of 10 over a 90-day period. So can you do that? Find fun ways to gamify your upgaming. Find ways to gamify your Buddhist practice, because that'll make it fun. And there's no reason why our Buddhist practice can't be fun and can't be engaging, because we want to be in it for a long haul. It's not just the case that being generous and having solid integrity in a list of rules and things that we really can trust ourselves by, and being able to sit quietly in a room. It's not just the case that those are beautiful for 90 days. They're beautiful on in perpetuity. And you can see it when you have visiting monastics like Lumpur Kun, Lumpur Damrong. Just the halo of their 50, 60 years of practice just shine through their face. And you can see it in our venerable sibling monastics, and anybody who's really given their heart to the Dhamma. You can notice it in different ways, and I think you'll see it in yourselves as well if you give yourself to these things. So encourage everybody to look at these 3 pillars of Buddhist Lent and to really ask yourself to take some time, maybe before you leave here today. And we will have a potluck, and maybe even during the potluck, encourage people to ask each other, oh, that talk that Ajahn Kovilo gave, that was such a good talk. He is such a beautiful person. He's a beautiful person. It was a great talk. And what do you think you might take something on? Do you think you might give something up for just 90 days? Just that long. And so that's a prompt for conversation. But if you think the other person isn't into it, don't press. But yeah, just end the talk there and hope we can all grow in these beauty-making qualities. So.
หันธรรมยังธรรมคาถาสาธุการังทัทามาเซสาธุสาธุสาธุอนุโมทามิ
Okay, so we'll open things up to questions, or if people have comments there, or if you actually did want to share out loud and in public some kind of aspiration that you are able to make in this period of time, that would be great. And that's for people in person or on Zoom. And we'll start with Juanita, and then we'll have someone run a mic to you so people can raise their hands so people on Zoom can hear. Juanita.
I just would like to announce to be everyone to be joyful for Ajahn Kovilo having give early in the morning as a dana to the Thai community by teaching in Thai language 5 minutes daily. So every morning, so he shared on us, so I forward to share in the Thai community here in Seattle, in Thailand too. So everyone please joyful with him and admire his viriya, try the Thai language, teaching in Thai language. So let's say sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Juanita, what is your aspiration? 3 months.
Adhitan, before I said sit 3 times, 3 times a day, 1 hour a day, but now since you start 7 hours, so we'll see how many hours can take, but 3 times a day, and then 8 precepts for the 3 months, and walking meditation 1 hour every day. I don't know about Dana. Dana we do every day, every week already. Saturday here, Sunday in Vihara in Olympia, and help Ajahn to share the Thai language teachings every morning and listen to Ajahn Kovilo teaching in Thai language. That's what I plan to do, Ajahn. Sadhu.
Do we have a replacement mic runner for Miles, by the way?
I can do it.
Oh, well, Sid's got the mic already. Sorry, Trenton.
Yeah. Thank you, Ajahn. That was a beautiful talk. Yeah, it was going in my mind, and I wanted to keep it to myself, but as you said, to make an aspiration, so I'm making it public. So I was wondering, whatever our Ajahns' personal needs, next 3 months, I would like to financially support that. If there is any, just let me know. I would be more than happy, and I'm very grateful for you guys for all the wonderful things you do. Thank you, Ajahn. Okay. I'm the mic runner.
Thank you for that beautiful talk, and you're a beautiful person. I really like this idea of the foundational faith and the fact that we can let go of unwholesome habits and we can cultivate wholesome habits. To me, that is so practical. And, you know, it's Buddhism to me is very practical about a way of living to bring more wholesomeness. And sometimes people talk about, oh, you know, you want to achieve enlightenment. And that to me, well, yeah, but that kind of almost seems beyond my reach. But being able to cultivate a wholesome mind state and letting go of unwholesome mind states, that's just, to me, just wonderful. And I am so grateful that Buddhism kind of provides very practical strategies to do that. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Anyone has aspirations for next 3 months? Right.
Just say the mic.
So I want to say this out loud so my friends can try to help me hold to this, which will probably satisfy all 3 of them, is to try to give without a sense of loss. Because in my day at the Abbey, I'm doing things a lot, and I for years try to hold my responsibilities there with a sense of giving, of generosity. It helps my mind tremendously. Try to put it in that framework, but it's easy to give and not feel a sense of loss sometimes. So I want to work on that, and that will take me all 3 to do that. It will take my ethics, and it will take my practice on the cushion. And she can hold me to it because she's honest.
Thank you, Venerable.
For the last 3 or 4 years, Venerable Tarpa has been one of the key cornerstones of their building of the new meditation hall at Sarvasti. And for the last 20 years of the whole monastery, but that's just a very beautiful aspiration and one that honors what you've given.
I aspire to write a note to somebody every day, a note of appreciation, love, or gratitude.
Thank you, Charlie, right? Thank you, Charlie. Sheila.
I've not spoken here before. I sometimes conflate kindness and generosity, and maybe you can speak to how they relate or are maybe different. I think in Western society we put dollars as generosity, and I have been striving for a long time to make my generosity be giving of myself and my resources, my knowledge, my friendship, my acknowledgement on the street to people. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, Sheila. Julie.
I just wanted to dovetail on Sheila because I feel like one of the kindest things you can do for anyone is be present with them and recognize all people as fellow human beings that want to be seen and heard.
Thank you, Julie. We have someone online.
Joseph. Joseph, I think you're muted. Try again? Should be able to, Joseph. Give it another go. Oh, Mary, too. Actually, I don't know what's going on. It might be on our end, the speakers. Checking.
Joseph is on mute.
Joseph, give it another go. Give it another go, Joseph. Nope, it says muted. Let's, we'll hold up on the Zoom people for now until we figure that out, I think. Soleil? Oh, just a second. First Zoom, Joseph or Mary. Give it another go.
Virtue.
Gotcha. We can hear you, Joseph. Go for it. Good.
Virtue.
We can hear you.
Feeling inspired from now until the end of the Vasa, as well as I'm able, may I encourage, approve, and praise the abstaining from non-virtue and cultivate compassion, empathy, and exquisite tenderness. And for one day, at least once a day, compose a blessing of kindness.
We have Soleil here.
Blessings. With the thought of generosity and giving, and then the thought of loss coming up. It's funny because in the past recent days, I had this. Well, yesterday I had a thought that love is all about loss, because when you lose something or someone, it hits different. So we love and continually check in and give to preserve and keep what is there, so that we keep the life there rather than it being lost. And then also, I think I heard someone say something about companionship, and how, like, I think they've done studies where children who don't have their father in their life, the thing they miss the most is just their presence. Even if, they can't, their dad was in like the war and got injured and stuff and can't play the same way, presence. And that just had me think about Buddha too. Like sometimes, like if I don't feel I have the Buddha with me to be able to have like that generous spirit, I find prayer and meditation as a form of like upping my dose on the presence, so that I know that the presence is in and through me. So yeah, blessings.
Thank you, Soleil.
The Buddha, who here has read the love languages, the 5 love languages? So those 5 actually have a rough equivalency in the Buddhist canon to these 4 kinds of, is it giving? Sanghahavatu? How do you translate that in English? Basis for harmony, something like that. And it's material gifts, kind words, quality time, and equality, something like that. So yeah, just noticing if where you get stuck up is the giving of time. That is often where we're most impoverished, and therefore it's where we should most give. And that's really a key understanding. And there's an interesting sutta called the Quail, where the Buddha says that if the Buddha says to give up something, even a trifling thing, and one does not give it up, then it can bind one and be a large fetter, just as a rotting creeper might bind the leg of a quail. Whereas if one gives up something, even a large thing, after the Tathagata, the Buddha, has said to give it up, it is like it is no fetter at all, like a strong bull elephant would snap a leather band, and one shows love for the teacher. And just this idea, like during this Vasa, often there's these little things that on the surface they don't seem that large, but they're the thing you constantly debate over with yourself, like, should I do this, should I not? Should I stop drinking, should I not? And even though on the outside it might seem just like a rotting creeper, nothing at all, for you, you know it binds you. And the Vasa is a great time to really just cut the creeper. Like for 3 months, can you just make the determination to not drink, to give up porn, whatever it is, those little things which are binding us all deep down. Not that one specifically. I'm a monk, but this is all recorded. But really taking into account this chance. And yeah, and also to be a bit cautious, maybe give yourself a week-long test. We had a monk who determined to fast the whole 3-month Vasa, and after the Vasa, he disrobed and became a chef. So just in proper measure, people.
Anyone else wants to share there? Okay, I see a hand raised. Hayden, right?
Yes, thank you. There's a Theravadan teacher named Joseph Goldstein who shared a generosity practice that he was doing, which was simply to give when he had the impulse to give. And he was experimenting with that. And I have found that a useful practice since hearing that as well. And I'm going to resolve to double down on that during these 3 months, to just, when the impulse arises, to go ahead and give as an experiment to see if regret is there, and just be more mindful of that commitment over these next 3 months, just to see how it goes. Because I just know that I can often pull back. Like the impulse is there, but then I can second guess myself.
Thank you.
With giving without that sense of loss, there's a teaching by the Buddha where he says that when the house is on fire, the vessel salvaged will be of use. So when this life is on fire with birth, aging, and death, that which is given is well salvaged. You know, so in a way, only what we give away is what we keep. You know, it's the Dharmic path is this photographic negative, and everything is reverses. So that's a really useful recollection when you're like, should I give away the piece of cake? And, you know, yes, generally. So that's a beautiful teaching by Joseph Goldstein. We do have time for one more question or one more determination, depending on what comes up.
Dorian.
Oh, just wanted to echo the thank you for sharing that teaching about faith, definition of faith, giving up unwholesome things and cultivating wholesome things and believing that it's going to work. Which sutta is that from? Is that the Saddha Sutta?
It's in the Anguttara Nikaya's 1 or 2.15 or something like that. Yeah, I can look that up and let you know.
Thank you.
Nicole, I think you'll be our last speaker if you are so inclined, please.
Hello. For me, these next 3 months and just forever afterwards, I want to focus on cultivating patience and not letting, my initial emotional reactions guide my responses or words, actions. And I also want to meditate more. I believe you guys said that there's like 7 hours a week meditation thing going on. I don't know. If you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, you can go on the, thank you, Nicole. That's a great intention. And yeah, on the Clear Mountain Monastery website, you'll see on the calendar every day, there's 3 hours starting off, it's been that way for a while, from 4 to 5:30 every morning, 12 to 12:30 every midday, and then 4:45 to 5:45 every afternoon. And then a week from Monday, we'll start 7 hours a day, and we'll put up the calendar at some point in the next week. So yeah, join any of those. It's a great way to force oneself to practice if you want to do that.
Thank you.